Welcome to Theories About Things, where I pitch my theories on why some things are the way they are. Today, we'll get into my theory on why the Luka trade really went down. Normally on this channel, I'd like to have some variety in terms of the topics I cover, and I will. But when I saw this Luka trade and how bizarre it was, my brain immediately had to start solving the puzzle on how something like this could even happen. By the way, before we start, I recently dropped a video about why no one watches the NBA anymore. If you like digging into the problems of the NBA, and I'm assuming you do since you clicked on this video, you might like that one too. I'll leave a link to it at the end of this video. So without any further delay, my theory on why the Luka trade actually happened is because the NBA as a business is at its peak form when the face of the league plays for the Lakers, so they made it happen. Everyone with decision-making influence in the NBA understands this undeniable truth. There's a lot of complexity to this whole subject, and I'll briefly get into all of it in this video. To start at the top, on February 2nd, 2025, a three-team blockbuster trade was announced that involved the Los Angeles Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Utah Jazz. You can see the exact details of the trade on screen, but the main components of the trade were the Lakers receiving Luka Doncic and the Mavericks receiving Anthony Davis. This trade rocked the sports world. You just don't see a team willingly let go of a young, generational superstar in his mid-20s like the Dallas Mavericks just did with Luka, especially only to receive an older, injury-prone star in return. It's hard enough to ever even come across a player of Luka's talent as an organization. Furthermore, international superstars tend to be far more loyal to the teams that drafted them than their American counterparts. So given that the Mavs were able to draft a player like Luka, all they had to do was not trade him, and they likely would have had him straight through his prime. But for some reason unbeknownst to anyone, they did trade him. And now, we'll start breaking down why. Let's start by discussing the face of the league designation. The face of the NBA is the main ambassador of the league. It's a single player that serves as the primary representation of what the league has to offer in order to generate more interest in the league. The face of the league is a critical component of the NBA business model. For a league like the NFL, it isn't as important as fan engagement is more linked to the teams than it is to the players. We all know the surface level requirements for a player to be crowned the face of the NBA. It has to be someone wildly talented, usually the consensus best player in the league. It also has to be a player whose personality and behavior off the court doesn't bring negative publicity to the NBA. However, when you really study the faces of the NBA historically, you'll see that there are actually more requirements than it seems on the surface. If history teaches us anything, the face of the league has to be specifically a big ball handler that can score. Just look at the previous faces of the league and you'll notice that they all fit this description. It has to be a relatively tall player in the 6'6 to 6'10 range that with 15 seconds left on the clock, you can pass it to him at the top of the key and isolate, and he can create any shot he wants, whether it be dribbling himself free to fire off a three-point shot or driving it from the top of the key all the way to the basket. American sports fans love big athletes. They want to see athletes as almost superheroes. It isn't even specific to the NBA. Just take a look at some of the most popular athletes in American sports history from sports other than the NBA. There's a clear pattern. That's why soccer has had such a hard time catching on in the United States. If a professional soccer team walked into a restaurant, you'd be forgiven for mistakenly thinking it was the accounting department from a nearby office coming in for happy hour. However, if an NBA team walks in, there would be no mistake as to who they are. So with these criteria in mind, you can start to narrow down who could be the next face of the league and who can't. Conventional wisdom would tell you it could be Victor Wembanyama. However, I think the league knows this isn't likely. While he's obviously very tall and has some guard-like skills that are very uncommon for someone his size, he's still primarily a true center, and that isn't the most marketable position for the league. Shy is too small. Anthony Edwards actually has a lot of the requisite qualities in terms of basketball talent, but his brash personality and off-the-court headlines may not be for everyone. Jason Tatum may have the opposite issue where his basketball skills are also just fine, but some say his personality may be too reserved to be the face of the league. Then there's Luka. He has the ball handling skills to be a point guard, but is also simultaneously the best offensive talent in the game, so he's exciting to watch. He's big. He has enough of a personality to be compelling, but not so much so where he'd be a public relations headache for the NBA. Also, he's international and even speaks 4 languages. While in the past this may have actually been a disqualifier, the NBA relies heavily these days on international viewership as American viewership wanes, as you can learn more about in my recent video. If I was to speculate, I would bet that the NBA strongly views Luka as the future face of the NBA once LeBron retires. Speaking of which, there's another preferred attribute of the face of the NBA. By the letter of the law, it may not be an end-all be-all requirement, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And that attribute is that the player plays for a big market team, preferably the Lakers. As I outlined in my recent video, the NBA is a top-heavy league. A small handful of big market teams carry the league. They generate the money, the viewership, and the interest in the league and share it among the other teams so that there could be a viable and complete league. This is a different model from the NFL, where all of the teams operate on more or less an even playing field. Therefore, the strongest position for the NBA to be in would be to have the most visible player, otherwise known as the face of the league, playing for the most visible big market team, otherwise known as the Lakers. If you understand this concept, hold on to your seat because you'll never guess what just happened. The future face of the league just got damn near donated to the Lakers. Who could have seen that coming? You can actually kind of see the case for the entire league, top to bottom, being in on this trade, if we're being honest. Like I mentioned earlier, in the NFL, every team has the belief that they can generate success both on the field and as a business on an even playing field with every other team. In the NBA, the teams know that isn't true. The small market teams know that, on their own, there is absolutely no way that they can compete with the big market teams based on how the NBA operates. The only way that small market NBA teams can survive is if big market teams succeed and then those fruits trickle downwards. Therefore, small market teams almost have an incentive to support whatever grows the league as a whole. And like I've outlined in this video, what is understood to grow the league as a whole is having the face of the league play for a big market team, usually the Lakers. I won't go as far as to call it collusion, but because every team benefits when the top teams succeed, I'll say that I suspect that there wasn't any pushback from any team owner top to bottom when it became known that the league wanted Luka on the Lakers. So there you have it. That's my theory on why Luka was traded to the Lakers. When the trade was first announced, it shocked the world. But when you focus on the who and the where instead of the why, you'll realize it actually wasn't that shocking at all. The NBA is a top-down league in design. The top teams in terms of media market size carry the league, and the top player also plays a huge role in carrying the league. With LeBron getting closer to retirement, the NBA has to look forward to who's going to be the next face of the league. When you really dig deeper and analyze beyond the surface level qualities of what makes a player marketable enough to be anointed the face of the league, you'll quickly come to the realization that it's almost certainly Luka. What would make the league even more marketable is if he played for a mega market team like the Lakers. And lo and behold, he was traded there in February. Just look at my surprise face. In my opinion, there's a case to be made that LeBron ended up on the Lakers for the same reason. LeBron has been the face of the NBA for some time, but he was playing majority of his career in Cleveland and was getting up there in age for a normal NBA player. The NBA knew that it had to get him to a bigger market, preferably Los Angeles, preferably in purple and gold, and have the league milk his face of the league value until the next in line was clear. The league just so happened to luck out that LeBron's prime is seemingly endless, and he was able to serve his role as the face of the NBA on the Lakers until the league was able to get his successor to be his teammate. So what do you guys think? Was the Luka trade just a natural product of a few front offices trying to make their teams better? Or was it a league-wide operation to put the NBA in the best position to succeed as a league into the future once LeBron retires? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want to hear me discuss some more interesting topics. See you in the next one.